Don't let one bad leg haunt your parlay. Parlays turn into payouts, and now even near misses won't haunt your bet. The NFL season is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is rewriting the rules with Ghost Leg, a new game-changing promotion that turns close calls into cold, hard cash. Best of all, it's available to all DraftKings customers. Here's how it works. Build any 3+ leg pregame NFL parlay on Sunday, apply your Ghost Leg token, and if one leg loses, DraftKings makes it vanish like it never existed and pays you out in cash for the rest. Last season, over 30 million parlays were lost by a single leg. This year, Ghost Leg gives those busted bets a second life. No more busted parlays that haunt you all season. With Ghost Leg, the bad leg vanishes. The payout doesn't. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to unlock Ghost Leg, the promotion that makes one bad leg disappear and pays you out in real cash. Ghost your losses, get your payout in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
We have to start with what could very well be a preview of what we're going to see later in January down the road to start the 2026 year. As one of these teams could absolutely represent this conference in the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. The Bills win that game in truly thrilling fashion, 41-40. They defend home turf. What an unbelievable game it was. We're going to dig into the stats that told the story in a second, but let's get to the top 5 graded players as we kick things off here. Buffalo won, so we'll do them first. We'll get to their top 5 graded players in the very top of the list. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver, a 92.1. Love to start things out with an elite PFF grade there, Dalton. You love to see it. Edge rusher Greg Rousseau with a 79.7. Wide receiver Keon Coleman with a 78.2. I know we'll talk about him here in a couple of minutes. Cornerback Teron Johnson with a 70.3. And then offensive tackle Spencer Brown, a 69.3. Of course, we always highlight the quarterbacks, whether they're in the top 5 or not. Josh Allen certainly was as the big hero last night. An 87.0 overall PFF grade. And then on Baltimore's side of things, Kyle Hamilton, their star safety, with another elite 93.9 overall grade. Center Tyler Linderbaum with an 87.4. Offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley, an 87.0. Defensive tackle Nnamdi Madubuike with an 84.8. Wide receiver Zay Flowers, an 83.8. And then quarterback Lamar Jackson, a 79.2 PFF grade in this one. Dalton, there is so much to get to, but what is your stat that told the story here to start us off?
What's funny to me about this game is there is so much to get to, and it's wildly entertaining, and it's probably at least one of the 5 best, if not the best game we watched all year. And yet, I don't think we learned anything new about either of these teams. We know Josh Allen is heroic, especially in Buffalo. The Bills gave up 40 points. We know their defense struggles at times to stop better teams. We know the Ravens can really run the football. Derrick Henry had a huge night. And the last thing that we do know and came up as the most important part was the Ravens have a hard time closing out games in games like this. They've now lost 5 of their last 6 against either Buffalo or Kansas City. Their last 3 drives told you everything you need to know. They were outscored 22-6 in the fourth quarter. Their last 3 drives, 2 3-and-outs, and a Derrick Henry fumble, the great play that Ed Oliver made in the backfield that really, for as much as Josh Allen is going to get the credit for all the heroics, and he's the quarterback, and he made the plays when he needed to, Ed Oliver had the biggest play in this game, I think, with that forced fumble on Henry. And in the first 3 quarters, the Ravens secondary was really darn good, 76.4 coverage grade. In the fourth quarter, 44.6. So just everything went wrong, especially in the last 4 minutes. It's been said it's only the 4th game since 2000 where a team has blown a 15-point lead in the last 4 minutes. So I just think you have this theme with the Ravens. We saw it at the end of the Bills game in the playoffs last year. We've seen it in past games against the Chiefs also. They just need to finish games. They are good enough to win every game they step on the field for. They're good enough to win a Super Bowl, but you have to execute for all 60 minutes, especially against a team like this. And I think the other lesson out of that, when you're playing one of these big 4 quarterbacks, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and Jackson, you just can't give him the ball back. You have to coach a different type of game. Jaden Daniels might also be in that mix. We're getting there maybe with
I wouldn't put him there yet, but like him, like Herbert's had some great, game-winning drives, things like that. I wouldn't put those guys in those categories yet, but those top four specifically.
These four in end-of-game situations, you just have to coach it differently.
Yeah.
You have to be more aggressive. And actually, to me, it's not the aggressive part on that last 3-and-out the Ravens had. I felt like they had to punt it there because you were only up 2 and they were already in field goal. To me, the call that got me was the jet sweep with Zay Flowers on 2nd down, like 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. I wasn't a fan of that call. I go live and die in this game with Derrick Henry, at least on the first 2. He didn't get much on the first down carry, but he's the ultimate closer, right? If there's anybody, it's either him or Saquon Barkley that I would want back there as the closer in a game like this. Give the ball to Derrick Henry on 2nd, then see where it goes. But I get not going for it on 4th down because if you don't get it then, they can just kick a field goal right from that spot, right? Maybe your defense can find their footing, but the 2nd down call with the jet sweep with Flowers, I wasn't a fan of. But again, you just have to, you could argue on those first 2, maybe they should have just put it in Lamar's hands and thrown it on the first 2. Just get a first down. You're 1 first down away from winning, and this ends up being the result because it just wasn't enough to beat Josh Allen.
It's hard because I do agree with you. Even in the moment, I remember them having whatever it was. I think it was a 4th and 3, right? Is what they had there at the end. And I remember even like saying to myself, like, I don't know if I would go for this here. Like, I think that I would punt the ball. But then what played out. And I think that what changes things is that's not the first time we've seen that, right? The Bills have been on the opposite end of it, where they gave the ball to Patrick Mahomes, and I don't remember what's the
13 seconds,
17 seconds, 13 seconds, whatever. Somehow that's too much time for a quarterback like that. When you play one of these 4 quarterbacks, as the game played out last night, and as I was sitting there with my jaw on the floor that the Buffalo Bills actually won that football game, I came to the conclusion that you did. End game situations, you have to just have a different rule book if you're playing one of those 4 quarterbacks. And the rule books has to be, especially if you are one of the teams that also has one of those 4 quarterbacks, right? If you are really any other team in the NFL, perhaps punting really is just the best way to do it. But certainly, if you are one of the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Bengals, and you are playing one of those other teams right there, you might as well go for it. Because at that point, you would rather control what you could control your own destiny. Because as much as we have, defensive-minded head coaches and, teams that the defense may boast like the best part of their team. We may call them a defensive football team. It doesn't matter when you play one of these 4 quarterbacks. It doesn't. And like the Ravens, defense was a little up and down all night, but I still think that's a very talented Ravens defense. But at the end of the day, I said this on Twitter last night, punting that football just makes you feel good about a bad decision. That's what it is. Because you tell yourself, of course I punted it, because if I don't punt it and we don't get it, they're right within field goal range. Well, I thought about it if they were in field goal range, because what was the problem about last night? Not only the fact that you were playing an alien on the other side at quarterback in Josh Allen, who makes defending those types of series incredibly difficult with everything that he could do with his arms and his legs. The problem became not that they kicked a field goal. It was that they kicked a field goal as time expired. They were now allowed to not just control the football, but control the clock. So if the Ravens were to go for it, they, in my opinion, would have had a better chance at even if the Bills kicked a field goal. You have time on the clock, which ultimately just does what? Allows you to control your own destiny. Again, it gives you the football back. So I would rather stack as many drives and opportunities where I control my destiny. And so that it was just such a phenomenal masterpiece of a game where we got to sit there and think about what happened in the last 2, 3, 4 minutes of that game. And to me, that's just the conclusion that I came to. It's like, I even if all logic tells you to punt the football, when you know that you're going up against that caliber of a quarterback, you can't do it. You can't do it. Because again, to me, it just makes you feel good about a bad decision. And ultimately, that's what happened with the Ravens.
I think even more so than punting or not. I think because we so often get in these scenarios where a team on defense has a certain number of timeouts, and the offensive team just goes, okay, let's just make them. Let's find a way to make them burn those timeouts. Okay, let's not throw out towards the numbers and risk going out of bounds. Let's run the ball. Let's make them burn the timeouts. And the reality with those guys is those special quarterbacks you mentioned, it doesn't matter. They'll find a way with no timeouts. They practice these things. They're the best situational quarterbacks as well, right? So I think for me, it also goes to even more so before we get to the punt or not decision. Keep your entire playbook open on the first 3 downs, right? And I'm cool with Derrick Henry running on first down, but it's the second down call, and then you set yourself up for a questionable third down call where Bobby Babbage timed up a blitz and got a free rusher at Lamar, and he had to get rid of the ball quicker than he wanted to. But I think it's just a thing where it's like, the first 3, you just leave the playbook open. Just don't go into make him burn timeouts mode and doing all that, because it just doesn't. Josh Allen, even if he's got no timeouts, if he's got a minute and a half, he will find a way to do it, right? And I think it's really the whole sequence more so to me than punt or not in that spot. It really is. I think it's just you just have to coach against those 4 guys and maybe 1 or 2 others.
Right.
Just a different. And you have to go into the game at the beginning of it knowing you're doing that.
Yeah. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from the Buffalo Bills winning this game, because it was obviously thrilling that they were able to do that. It's huge to get that win over the Baltimore Ravens specifically, because this is a team that is going to be gunning for the number 1 seed in the AFC along with them. But as we sort of get into our stats, my stat that told the story, and then we'll get into most impressive and most disappointing, the Buffalo Bills, as do most teams in the NFL, have a Derrick Henry problem. And I feel as though, like, we have talked about this before, it's like, Buffalo, they're going to have to go through Kansas City. Whether they play them in the divisional round, whether they play them in the AFC Championship, whatever, they're going to have to best Mahomes. Like, that was the narrative with them for the last couple of years. Now I think it's the Ravens. I would be shocked if they don't see this team again sometime in January. And right now, if you look at the last 3 games since Derrick Henry has been a member of the Baltimore Ravens against the Buffalo Bills, he has rushed for 199 yards, 84 yards, and then last night, 169 yards. That's 150 yards a game average against just the Buffalo Bills. And last night, obviously, there's a lot of craziness and thrilling things that happened that end up with the Buffalo Bills winning that football game. But one of them was the fact that Derrick Henry fumbles the football, which it feels like he never does. And the other was that you had an unbelievable drive down the stretch and scored when you needed to. And it was incredible. And again, I don't say any of this to take anything away from Buffalo winning that football game last night. But if you are going to beat the Baltimore Ravens when you see them again in January, whether it's in Baltimore or whether it's in Buffalo, Derrick Henry can't rush for 150 yards on you like he has as an average over the last 3 games. They have to figure out how to defend Derrick Henry better, or I don't think that they will be able to do this again.
Well, in the playoff game, Henry only had 84. And
right, that was
most of the game, especially in the first half, they did do a better job of it and just stack the box and get single high and hope you have enough bodies. Because the way first of all, the Bills, and this is why my opinion of them, even after this win, my opinion doesn't change. It's great to get this win. It's great to have the tiebreaker. The question is their defense good enough to win a Super Bowl against any of those teams, right? They could be playing anybody in the postseason. Can they get big stops when it matters? They got a couple of them in this game. They won by the slimmest of margins. That's fine. But to me, I question the talent on their defense. Obviously, I like their D-line. We like Rousseau and Oliver, but the back 7 worries me a lot. And the way their defense is structured against Baltimore. Look, the Bills last season, they ran a base defense with a third linebacker on the field 5% of the time, the least in the NFL. They're just not going to put bigger bodies out here against the Ravens. They're going to stay in their defensive structure, and that's why the Ravens can always run on them, because they generally give them the numbers to do so. So maybe it's just a bad matchup, right? And you have to win games like this. You have to win these types of shootouts and late game execution, which against teams like this, that's going to come down to the last 4 minutes anyway. So they're going to stick to their guns. And it's the same question coming out of this game. Great for the Bills to win, but you have the same questions about both teams. Can the Ravens execute late in big moments? And can the Bills play defense?
Yeah.
I don't think we leave long. It's a great football game. Don't get me wrong. 10 out of 10 game. We're going to remember it for a long time.
Right.
But I come out of the game with the same opinion of the two teams that I did going in. They're both Super Bowl contenders. They both have something we're going to look at in the postseason and go, Can you get over this hurdle?
Yeah, dude, my most impressive in this game, how good was Ed Oliver in this game? I mean, he was unbelievable. And Ed Oliver is obviously somebody who, like, pound for pound, very strong as a football player, but, known as an undersized guy. Okay, was he going to be a little bit more of a pass rusher getting into the NFL coming out of Houston? Man, he is as strong as an ox. And when you look at his overall run defense grade this past game, 92.7. That's why he was at the top of the list and the highest graded player for the Buffalo Bills. He was unbelievable. So he is my most impressive in this game. It was great. I've talked a lot about it feeling like it's kind of Greg Rousseau and then, a cast with him. Like, not to say that they're terrible, but I wanted to see more from the defensive line. And I think Buffalo has tried to draft and acquire guys for that to be the case, but it has felt as though Rousseau was really the constant on that defensive line, and the rest of them were just kind of flash in the pan players. Man, what a great night for Ed Oliver to, if he's just a flash in the pan player this year for them, what a great game for that to be the case. But you're hoping that week 1 is a sign of things to come for him to really be stout on that defensive line along with Rousseau for the entire season.
Yeah, it's generally been consistency that's the issue. It's usually 3 or 4 games a year where you go, wow, that guy was the best player on the field. Also, have we ever seen someone just pretty much rip the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands like that? Have we ever seen that?
Yeah, that was – and I felt like that was such a theme throughout the NFL. I mean, Nate Landman punching that ball straight out of who was it? Agumbawale for the Texans and the Rams, and I feel as though this weekend we had a lot of phenomenal forced fumble, peanut punch type of guys going for the ball, and we hear coaches emphasize that all the time, and we saw the fruits of that. Did you get to linebacker grades when you were talking about the linebackers?
Yeah, that's my most disappointing part. Okay. I mean, really, again, I'm going to be talking about this a lot over the course of the season. The Bills' linebackers and safeties, the middle of this defense is an issue. The linebackers in this game, and look, it's an extremely tough matchup for linebackers against the Baltimore Ravens, maybe the toughest in football. But Terrell Bernard, highly paid guy, 38.8. Matt Milano, 29.8. I need him 100% and be in prime Matt Milano. Dorian Williams, a 60.9 in a part-time role, a little bit better. But I'm going to be looking at the middle of this defense all year and just going, look, this is the unit that has to be better. The linebackers and the safeties, it was a problem last year. It was a big reason the Bills were second to last in the league in coverage grade as well. That's a unit that has to get better. Tough matchup week 1. Found a way to win, giving up 40 points. Need to be better. Even next week against the Jets, who obviously played good offense this past week, it's going to be the X factor in their whole season. Can they defend the middle of the field? Can these linebackers stop the run against a team like this? In this game, they really couldn't. Can they do it? And I'm not saying they have to be number 1 in the league. I need good enough. I just need, even if you give up 28, Allen can make up that difference, right? It's a thing of, if the Bills have an average defense, they can be the best team in football. They just have to be better than this.
Yep. You want to shout out Josh Allen real quick?
How could you?
I don't have a most disappointing in this game.
You could shout out Josh Allen every week, and I mean anybody who ever blames him really for much of anything, it's just nonsense to me. In this game, this is just the fourth quarter, Trevor. Just the fourth quarter. 16 of 21, 251 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 big-time throws, 90.3 PFF grade. Josh Allen's fourth quarter alone was better than 80% of the quarterback's entire games this week. That's how good he is. If you let him get hot, if you let him get 3 or 4 drives in a row where he just has a pulse, he will bring this team back. I mean, just a supernova. And again, to the point of the MVP debates and all of that, maybe statistically it should have been Lamar or whoever else last year. I don't know that there's a singular player more important to their team than Josh Allen. If they had just somebody even average in there, I don't know that they'd win more than 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just him or Joe Burrow maybe. That's about it. Lamar, yes, not that Lamar's not incredibly important.
I mean, Mahomes is in that conversation.
But to me, if you put an average quarterback on the Ravens, they might still be a wild card team.
Yeah, I understand. You're doing the true, like, take him off the team, replace him with an average player.
And Allen, you just go, they don't win this game with anybody other than Josh Allen.
Yeah.
They just don't.
I think the Bills' floor, if you were to replace him with an average quarterback, would still be relatively high. I do, because I still think the team is talented. But obviously very few human beings on the planet are replicating what Josh Allen was able to do last night. And I think that's absolutely worth shouting out.